This is Breaking Down the Barriers with Terry Russell and Beverly Reeves on KZI 88.7. Breaking Down the Barriers is an initiative of the Austin Independent School District. This program was created to bring you information on resources, programs, and district initiatives for you, the parents, students, and community members in Austin. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Austin_BDB. You can also watch us on AISD's Channel 22, Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 and on Sunday mornings at 10:30.
As always, Breaking Down the Barriers is committed to bringing you the best news, resources, and tools to ensure that every one of our students is successful. Today's guest is Michelle Wallace, Executive Director of the Department of Innovation and Development. Her office supports district and individual campuses with fundraising, including linking service providers and corporations to Austin ISD. Thank you, Michelle, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are very glad that you joined us. So tell us, how long have you been with AISD and how many departments have you worked in at AISD?
I am relatively new to Austin ISD. I started just over 3 years ago as the Executive Director of the Office of Innovation and Development. So relatively new to the district. Before that, I worked on a campus, on the Ann Richards School campus, running the foundation that supports that school.
That's awesome. Can you give us a detailed overview of what your office does for the district and our students? How does OID help us?
Sure, yeah. Some people know us as OID because Office of Innovation and Development is a long title, but our office, we really aim to be the central point of contact for people who want to help the district. So that could be an individual, it could be an organization, a company, a foundation, a service provider, partner organization, or it could be a teacher, a principal, a campus, a district department that's looking to develop a new concept and potentially get resources to support that concept. So that's kind of at a high level of what we do. So we find ourselves working day to day with campuses, with individual teachers, with the superintendent on district-wide initiatives, and then we are so fortunate to work with just hundreds and hundreds of community partners, whether it be a service provider that provides after-school programming on a campus or a foundation that provides significant funding to help us launch a new initiative, all kinds of people that are supporting our students.
We know that your office raised nearly $30 million in funding to support the initiatives such as social emotional learning and other creative learning programs. How do you go about securing these funds?
Well, we have a magic bucket of money. I'm just kidding. That's what people want to think. No, it's really a long a process. So the great news is there are so many opportunities in Austin and in this district. We have a community that values public education and really wants to support it. And we have 84,000 students in Austin ISD, 130 campuses, so there's not a lack of ideas and innovative projects that people want to pursue. So it's really a process of putting those two things together. We start, if it's a teacher or a principal or someone at the district who has an idea, we start developing the concept of what does that actually look like? What is your plan for the next 3 to 5 years, and what are the resources required to support it? At the same time, we're developing relationships internally and externally to talk about those needs and help educate our community about what's going on in the district and where there are opportunities to support it. So that it kind of takes a while to go from concept development to actually securing resources for something, but we really have to start there to know what is the big picture, what are you trying to achieve. For example, around technology, you know, a lot of teachers, need more technology resources in their classrooms, and but we kind of have to understand why. Like what will you be doing with the technology? Why is it so important that our students are prepared for the workforce when they're exposed to technology? What are they using it to do in the classroom? And once we have that kind of understanding, it's much easier to get technology when you have kind of an understanding of what the big picture and what your plan is for it. We also accept donations, so AISD can just have to take this moment to say that AISD can accept donations, and donations are tax deductible. And we do that regularly, whether it's an individual wanting to make a contribution or an organization wanting to make a grant or sponsor an event. Those are tax deductible donations. We have online giving available on our website. It's austinisd.org/OID. And you'll also be able to find out more there about the Austin Ed Fund, which is the new name for the Austin Public Education Foundation. Most districts have an education foundation that's supporting the district, and we have a really amazing group of people that have come together to develop a new strategic plan for our education foundation, a new name, the Austin Ed Fund, and a new way for people to give to support the district. So you can read about that there too, and also give through the Austin Ed Fund.
Well, it sounds like there are several sources and ways to partner with the district. If an organization is interested in becoming a partner or service provider, how would they go about doing that?
So the first step, easy step, is to contact our office, and we can help navigate, depending on what someone wants to do, wants to give, wants to provide. It will depend kind of what that looks like. So if there's a service provider that wants to provide a service on campus, we can kind of hook you up with how that would happen. If you are a business that would like to give back to a campus in a school, but you're not quite sure where to start, we can help understand your goals and your priorities and match it with the need that we see within the district, and kind of come up with what a good strategy would be for you to give back where it's really having an impact in our students' lives.
Okay. So it sounds like there's a push-pull. So also we work with the campuses and teachers and principals to find out what the needs are, and we match those with the organizations with the services they provide. Is there an easy way to get access to those organizations who may be providing the services that I need for my campus?
Sure. And parents, it's a good resource for parents too. We are a part of a collaborative effort to maintain data on youth services, and the system's called the Youth Services Mapping System. You can also find it on our website or get there directly at ysm-austin.org. And in the Youth Services Mapping System, service providers who are providing counseling services on a campus, after school programming, are all registered in the Youth Services Mapping System. So you can look up by campus and see what providers are providing services on each campus. It's a useful tool for service providers, for parents, for principals. So when folks are coming and want to provide a service to our students, we often start there and see, well, what campuses already have that particular service, and where might there be a gap in the need, and we can direct that service there.
Do you have staff that focuses on determining or doing an inventory on what we have in the district as far as services for our students, and determining what the gap in searching for providers to fill that gap?
We do. A lot of that happens organically on each campus. So ultimately, we go to the principal on that campus to understand. But between the Youth Services Mapping System and some other surveys that we do in our office, we try to gauge each year, what are the top priorities for our campuses? And that is a guide for us as we go about building the relationships out in the community each year, because we really need to have that understanding going into that work.
When people hear the title of your office, Innovation and Development, once they get an understanding, it's about fundraising. So I know there might be several things during the year that might be big fundraisers. Can you name some of those?
Sure, yeah. We are having an Austin Ed Fund fundraiser every year, and that will happen in the fall, typically. And so that is something to keep on your radar. We look for donations from individuals, organizations, foundations, corporations to support the work of the Austin Ed Fund. We also look for sponsorships for district-wide events. So the Austin Partners in Education puts on the Salute and Celebrate events, and we help work on sponsorships for that. AISD has a Back to School Bash in August, and we accept sponsorships for the Back to School Bash, which reaches thousands of parents and distributes school supplies there. We're really looking on an ongoing basis to build relationships and accept more contributions to support our students. And really, I'll say, our office is definitely about fundraising and building the structures inside the district to make that process happen and provide excellent stewardship of the money that is received. And it's also in that concept development part that I talked about, when you're kind of having to sit down and figure out what is it that you're doing and what is it that you're trying to do. That's where the innovation comes in for me, because often private dollars are the dollars that support the innovation and can help get programs. Social and emotional learning is a great example. That initiative is now throughout the entire district, and kids are learning to manage and control their emotions, to work together to solve problems, and that is on equal footing with academic success. And we know that is so critical. That initiative would not be where it is today without significant private support to get it launched and embedded within the district. So that kind of I'm thinking and vision. We find when we come together in a public-private partnership, that's when it really happens and the magic happens.
Doesn't your office also help write grants for other initiatives?
We do. We help write grants for district-wide initiatives, and we also help campuses when they're looking at, we have an online campus grants database on our website. So teachers can go on and look at what grant opportunities are coming up that might be of interest to their campus. We'll help you write your proposal. If you've never written a grant before and you need resources for that, we can help you do that. We also have a lot of grant applications require attachments and documentation that we get asked for over and over. And so we have that standard documentation. We can help if you're applying for a grant. And we also then are aware of some opportunities that come up. So for example, the Austin Ed Fund, we just launched an innovation grant program where teachers and school leaders can apply for grants up to $10,000 to launch an innovative program on their campus. And that first round of funding was just awarded. Nearly $50,000 was awarded to support Austin teachers, and we'll be doing that process again too. So we're a good place to just kind of get a handle on what resources might be available out there and what might be coming down the pike. And then also we're helping a lot of campuses look at things like crowdfunding. It's really popular in the world of fundraising. You use social media to really gain support from people that know and trust you and want to support the work that you're doing. And so we've developed guidelines and resources for campuses that are venturing into crowdfunding to make sure, again, we're good stewards of the money that's raised.
So it looks like our time is running out. We really appreciate you being with us today and talking to us about the Office of Innovation and Development. I think that it's good for people to understand that public education needs additional dollars to provide the support and services needed to educate our students. So this is critical information for our community to hear about. Are there any final comments or things that you really believe that our community needs to hear about before we go?
I mean, I'll second what you said. I think our schools and teachers are doing an amazing job, and as taxpayers, we all support that work. What I've seen in my experience working in public education is when the private and public come together, that's when we can really move the needle, start new and innovative programs, and enhance the work that we're doing to reach even more students, even more deeply. So I just encourage folks to give financially, to give of your time to your local campus, if you have time to give, and to get more involved in your child's education, if you're a parent, and think about that, how the private sector, how you as individuals can give and support Austin and public school in Austin. So, and thank you for having me. This is
thank you for
great that you do this work, and it's very important, so thank you.
for being with us.
Thank you for joining us again. This is Terry Russell, and we are back with our next guest, Sherry Raven, Director of Social Emotional Learning. Sherry, thank you for coming and joining us today. You are an absolute wonderful follow-up for Michelle. We just finished talking about funding, and we know that OID has helped social emotional learning in other departments by securing $30 million to support all of these district-wide initiatives. Tell us how much of a benefit that is to the district.
Having the private-public partnership for education is critical. New programs like social emotional learning that are innovative, that don't fit within the state mandated curriculum necessarily, can't really get a foothold unless you have some help sometimes. So that private partnership, and for social emotional learning right now, we're about a 60-40 partnership, with private funding being about 60% of our money and 40% being district support. And that makes this innovative program that's now reaching all 84,000 children on 130 campuses possible, and gets it started and helps you build buy-in and build data that supports the need for the work we're doing.
Well, I know that you didn't walk right into social emotional learning. So how long have you been in the district? Tell us a little bit about your career.
I've been in the Austin district for 29 or 30 years, somewhere in there. Started as a second grade teacher many years ago, taught for about 9 years, then was an assistant principal, an area intern, a special ed coordinator, a behavior specialist, and then an elementary principal. And I was an elementary principal when I was asked to say, think about this new initiative. What if you could impact every child in the district and work on not just being smart, but being nice people and making good decisions? So that was in 2011. And in those 4.5 years, Austin now is leading the nation in putting social and emotional learning on a level with math, science, social studies, and language arts, realizing that the development of our children socially, emotionally, and physically is just as important as that cognitive academic development.
Explain how this benefits our children. And how many campuses are we actually seeing social emotional learning services being
The
provided?
first year we started out with about 22,
Okay.
2 vertical teams. So we took Crockett High School and Austin High School and all of the kids that go to them eventually, and started with just those 2. We've added 2 or 3 vertical teams a year, and this summer, in August of 2015, we added the Anderson and Lanier vertical teams. They were the last 2 to come in. So now we made it. We made it to 100%. And it benefits our children because we're working on how do you make good decisions, how do you identify and manage your emotions, how do you build relationships with people, and how are you aware of what other people are feeling too. As a second grader at one of our schools said this fall, this SEL stuff, we're learning stuff that we use in school and out of school. And we went, yes, we're making an impact. Kids are connecting it with, oh, this is about real life.
Right.
This is about relationship skills that you're going to use forever. We all have relationships. We all want them to be positive. How do we learn about solving conflicts? How do we learn about talking to people respectfully? How do we learn about reading facial expressions so that we know when to go there and when not to when we're talking to somebody? So these are skills that students need when they're applying for college. They're skills that students need when they're going for a job interview. We teach a lesson in high school on how do you make a good first impression? How do you shake somebody's hand, look them in the eye, lean forward, smile, and say, hi, I want to work for you. And that's helping our students when they interview for school, when they interview for jobs, all the way through life.
Well, you've talked about good decision-making, problem-solving skills, basic relationship tools that students can learn. Are there specific guiding principles within social emotional learning, or do these descriptors kind of cover them all?
We start with 5 core competencies.
Okay.
Those being self-awareness, how do you know what you're feeling? Self-management, how can you set and achieve goals and manage your emotions and manage anger, manage sadness, know when you're feeling frustrated instead of angry. So self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, how do you know what other people are feeling? Relationship skills, and decision-making. And so those are the 5 core areas and principles, and then we know that there are skills underlying those that we can teach discreetly. We can teach you how do you deal with gossip in 3rd grade, for example, is a lesson that we can teach you and have you role play and have you practice, and then practice it over and over again, because we know that the more we name and practice these skills and the more we integrate them into academic areas, the better they stick and the more they help students. There's brain research that shows that we can teach a skill and you're thinking about it in the prefrontal cortex, and it's a thinking skill. But if we name it and practice it over and over again, so this is why we ask classroom teachers to do this with students. So then they can help practice it in math class. You can help practice it at recess. You can help practice it in social studies. And the more you practice it, the more it moves back to the limbic part of your brain where it becomes a habit. So if you've practiced solving problems appropriately over and over again, then when you get thrown a curveball in life and you've got a real problem to solve,
Yes.
you've got a strategy that you've already practiced, and you don't have to sit there and go, well, let me think, how should I attack this? You know, you've got to, oh, I need to say how I feel and what I want, and then I need to listen to them and summarize, and you've got it practiced, and it's embedded in you at that point.
These are great skills, and I can't wait to see this social emotional learning initiated into the adult, because I think we could use some of those decision-making and relationship
I was thinking the exact same
modules
thing.
ourselves.
That's what some of our partners have told us. Some of our
Right.
funding partners have said, you know, can you come teach this at the bank, or can you come teach it? And
Right.
we're like, sure.
These are everyday things. So it to me, we've worked together with bullying and those types of
Yes.
issues. So it's good to see that students are learning coping skills and relationship skills, because they're learning how to navigate at different levels.
Right.
In the classroom, we want them to focus on academics, but when they are dealing with other social issues or emotional issues, sometimes that takes away. So it's the whole child that we're focusing on now that we've incorporated social emotional learning into the curriculum.
It is.
And it looks like that we've been able to do this with the assistance of private donors. So
True.
we want to continue that. How do you collaborate with outside organizations, with other departments to help bring social emotional learning to where it needs to go?
We collaborate with a lot of departments because the impact is collaborative as well. With social and emotional learning, seldom do you have a direct causality in results. It's always a correlation because at the same time you're doing social and emotional learning, you're teaching math. At the same time you're doing social and emotional learning, you're working on how do we make lessons more culturally reflective of the students we're teaching. So we collaborate with departments on cultural relevance, with academic departments, with people who work with discipline, with the campus police department. We collaborate wide and far across the district to say how can we impact each other and share that impact. And we're seeing results now. We're seeing larger drops in discretionary removals for campuses that have been working on social and emotional learning longer.
Okay.
So our data now is showing that for campuses, for middle and high schools that have been doing SEL for 4 years, they've had a larger decrease in discretionary removals for students, which is our goal. We want students in the classroom.
Exactly.
So national studies show that that could be up to 11%. Right now we're at about 6%, but we're still implementing the program bit by bit and growing it in. And now that we're district-wide, I think we'll see even greater impact as we work with adults and students to say, you know, education is about relationships. And how do we make those positive, strong relationships and keep our students in class where they're learning because they can manage themselves. And kids don't come to school empty buckets. There's a lot of stuff going on in life.
Absolutely.
So a lot of our work is how do we teach you to manage all that outside stuff and control it and set it over to the side for a little bit so that you can learn the academic piece.
But seriously, can you come to our office? Can we have a professional development session?
Absolutely. Seriously, we can. We talk about communication and active listening and emotion management with any age, with anybody who wants to learn.
And isn't there a parent component to this also?
There is a strong parent component. We have 2 parent trainers, but we also have 13 social and emotional learning coaches who work with teachers, who work with parents, who work with families, who work with out-of-school time providers. So after school, Saturday, all of those summer camp people, we want children to hear the same vocabulary and the same strategies
Exactly.
wrapped around their lives and have families learn it too. Our goal is to have social and emotional learning in every classroom and every living room so that we can impact the whole city of Austin and help families grow the same way we're helping students grow.
Well, thank you very much, Sherry, for helping us understand better social emotional learning. It sounds like a wonderful program, and we hope to continue to see it grow. This is our show for today, Breaking Down the Barriers. We thank Sherry Raven, Director of Social Emotional Learning, and Michelle Wallace, Executive Director of Innovation and Development. We hope that you join us next time on Breaking Down the Barriers. We hope to see you then.